Often when people discuss the worst car ever made, the Trabant 601 is a guaranteed name to be submitted in that category. YouTuber Doug DeMuro called the car a horrible car built by communists. Is this all deserved though? Today we look into the history of the Trabant 601 and shed light on this often misunderstood car from the DDR. Before we delve into the story of the Trabi, we first have to look at what the DDR was like in 1963, when the car was first revealed. In short, the DDR, better known as East Germany, was the part of Germany that the USSR took over post-World War II. This also meant that the country operated following a communist system. A direct clue to this is in the name of the Trabant manufacturer, Volksgeheer Betrieb Sachsenring Automobilwerke Zwickau, translating to state-owned company, Sachsenring car manufacturer. The entire DDR economy was centrally planned and very state-owned. As a result, the average household was close to being in complete poverty. Meanwhile, West Germany was thriving, also in their automotive industry. You only need to think about the Volkswagen Beetle to understand just how vastly different the economies of the two German nations were. Interestingly enough, the DDR was to be the best performing economy in the entire Soviet Union. People in the DDR were not allowed to import vehicles from the West, so residents relied on producing their very own cars. This led to the Trabant being born, out of sheer necessity. Materials were hard to come by, so the body was largely built out of Duroplast, recycled material and cotton turned into hard plastic. The engine was built by DKW, a 600cc two-stroke engine originally producing 26 horsepower. At the car's introduction in 1963, the design was very modern. The tall roof gave plenty of headspace and the boot was also quite spacious. VAB Sachsenring started the production of the 601 in 1964. Originally, the car was meant to end production in 1971, but thanks to the DDR's government, the car would remain in production until the very end of the DDR. The car cost 7,450 DDR marks, around 16,000 US dollars today. Buying the car did not mean you would get it the same day. In fact, the average worker who just bought the car had to wait around 10 years until his car was ready to be driven. The demand ratio on the Trabant was around 42 people per one car produced. As the car went through the 60s and into the 70s, most of its technology was becoming obsolete. VAB Sachsenring made more prototype cars, such as the P603 and P610, both of which got denied production by the DDR government. They were told it would be too expensive to switch up production to a whole new vehicle. Even when researching possible improvements for the Trabant 601, such as a rotary engine, were denied by the DDR. As far as speed goes, the car had 26 horsepower and a 4-speed transmission, able to bring the car up to 62 miles per hour or 104 kilometers per hour. It took a full 21 seconds to reach 62 miles per hour. Back in 1963, this was average, but by the 70s, this was considered very slow. All the while, the car was one of the most polluting cars on the streets. Yet VAB Sachsenring made a promotional film showing the 4 qualities of the 601, including its speed.
4 Trümpfe mit dem Trabant 601. Bequem für 4 Erwachsene. Viel Raum für ihr Gepäck. Wendig. Schnell. Ausdauernd und robust. Ihr zuverlässiger Begleiter, der neue Trabant 601.
The Trabant 601 became the most common car on the East German roads, along with Wartburg. These two models were most known and even exported outside of the DDR to other European countries. They never quite caught on. A total of 3.7 million 601s were produced from 1963 to 1991. The car pretty much didn't change between 1963 and 1989. In 1990, after the collapse of the DDR, VAB Sachsenring licensed an i4 engine from the Volkswagen Polo to be put in the 601 along with other improvements, creating the Trabant 1.1. The car failed to make any impact and ended Trabant production forever in 1991. All of this adds up to the Trabant 601 being named one of the worst cars ever built. Is this justified though? As mentioned previously, East Germany was nowhere near a thriving country. Most households didn't even have a fixed phone. Having a car was very special back then, especially a car that was entirely produced in that country under such circumstances. Of course, the car was continued for far too long, but this is entirely the DDR government's fault, not VIB Sachsenring or Trabant. The 601 is essentially a car frozen in 1963, and compared to contemporary cars, the 601 was definitely not as terrible as people make it out to be. The car is a symbol of the DDR, its messed up ideas and plans for its people. The car has by now outlasted the Soviet Union by decades. A well-maintained 601 can easily last for another 50 years or more, unlike the example Doug DeMuro reviewed in his video. In short, the Trabant 601 is one of the most historically significant cars to have come from Germany, easily on par with the Volkswagen Beetle.